Well, an update now on the former Vice President Joe Biden. He wasn't willing to run against Trump in 2016, but now he says he'd be happy to face the president in the ring during an appearance at the University of Miami. Biden said he'd be able to beat up Trump. Watch.
When a guy who ended up becoming our national leader said, I can grab a woman anywhere and she likes it, and then said, I didn't make a mistake, but they asked me, would I like to debate this gentleman? And I said, no. I said, if we were in high school, I'd take him behind the gym and beat the hell out of him. I've been in a lot of locker rooms my whole life, a pretty damn good athlete. Any guy who talked that way was usually the fattest, ugliest SOB in the room.
He's a tough man, that Joe Biden. Ooh. Well, this morning, Trump tweeted this in response. Crazy Joe Biden is trying to act like a tough guy. Actually, he is weak, both mentally and physically, and yet he threatens me for the second time with physical assault. He doesn't know me, but he would go down fast and hard, crying all the way. Don't threaten people. Joe, President tweeted that. Author and columnist Mark Steyn, a connoisseur of pugilism, joins us tonight. So, Mark, your job is to call this fight. What do you say?
I think on balance, I'd probably give it to Trump, although Joe Biden is not to be underestimated. I understand that he swims naked in front of his female Secret Service agents most mornings, which is not something many 75-year-old men, other than Charlie Rose over at PBS, would be willing to do. So he's obviously fairly confident of his physique. I don't actually understand why he said, oh, if I was still in high school, I'd beat him up, because to my understanding of these things, Tucker, if you're defending a lady's honor isn't generally something one associates with high school. It's something one would do after high school as a grown man. So I'm actually in favor of physical violence between individuals. I'm in favor of dueling as an alternative. No, I'm being serious here. I've been in some stuck in some stupid libel suit in the District of Columbia for 6 years. I'd much rather have had pistols at dawn over that. And I think if these two wanted to have a sword fight, I would be in favor of the reintroduction of dueling. I'm in favor of chivalry. But what Joe Biden teaches us, I think, is if one is going to go in for male braggadocio, Trump is actually harder to do than most people think. It requires a lighter touch. And there's something rather heavy-handed about all his, I've been in more locker rooms, I've been around more guys, I mean, more around ugly, mean, ugly SO. It requires that kind of male, take it from an effete foreigner, that kind of male butchness requires a lighter touch.
Well, especially when I mean, that's like the one thing that Trump is indisputably great. I mean, he's a Viking, so it's like you're not going to beat him at that. But since when is it okay for sensitive, evolved liberals like Joe Biden to all of a sudden be threatening to beat people up?
Well, I think this is what's fascinating. He's complaining about Trump because Trump, you can grab a woman by the whatever, and they all. And the alternative to that, as Joe Biden sees it, is I hate guys who like to grab women. I like to beat guys up who like to grab women. And I noticed that on the liberal websites and Salon and all those guys, they're all saying, "Oh gosh, why isn't there some beta male pajama boy around when you need one?" They're all actually anti-Biden for what he thinks of as his chivalrous act of beating up Donald Trump. So I think the liberals are actually hopelessly confused on all this.
The fact that you call it Salon just made my night, no matter what. I'm calling it that from now on.
I'm sorry about that. I've just given I've been in locker rooms, Tucker. Bring it on. I'll rip your lungs out. That's how gentlemanly I am.
The great Mark Steyn. Thank you, Mark.
Well, someone's spoiling for a fight.
When a guy who ended up becoming our national leader said, I can grab a woman anywhere and she likes it, and then said, I didn't make a mistake, but they asked me, would I like to debate this gentleman? And I said, no. I said, if we were in high school, I'd take him behind the gym and beat the hell out of him.
That's convenient. A challenge that needs a time machine. I'd kick your butt if I were in high school. Of course, Trump hit back saying Joe would go down fast, crying. Now, Biden was speaking at a college rally against sexual assault. His message, to urge responsibility for both men and women. But no one cares now because we've got a fight on our hands. Welcome to high school, where the big men on campus taunt each other and everyone gathers around to watch. Mind you, the combined age of the combatants is like 150 years. If there's going to be a tussle, you're going to need a pallet of Fixodent. But it's so juvenile.
Awesome.
And if I recall, it's always the people who boast of their physical prowess who are the least harmful. I'm pretty sure the last fight Biden was in was over a window seat in first class. Anyway, it was only a week ago the Dems were fretting over whether they had a fighter among them to match Trump. Joltin' Joe heeded the call. The problem is, it's the least appealing part of Trump's behavior that he's lifting. And it's so fake. Plus, there's a lot of other good stuff you could steal from Trump. The fun rallies, support for law and order, the strong stance against terror. But to focus on the one thing that most people, including Trump supporters, only really tolerate because of the other good stuff Trump possesses, that's a miscalculation. And it's one Republicans love to see because most people are really bad at being Trump, except Trump. All right, Jesse. So what did you make of Joe Biden's tough talk? Do you think it's authentic or weird?
I think it's authentically weird. But that's who Biden's always been. He's always kind of been a joke. And he was elevated to be VP. He was only polling at 1% in that primary. And Obama needed a white male with experience in the swamp to kind of offset Obama, who was fresh and young. And his name looked good under Obama in a bumper sticker. That's it. I mean, the guy was not a consequential VP compared to a Cheney or to a Bush 41. And can you imagine, speaking of Cheney, if Cheney had said he's going to take Obama out in the schoolyard and beat him up? I mean, it would be all over the place, but the left can get away with this stuff. People are saying that Trump cyberbullied the former vice president. I think people need to get over that. This might be his first foray into running for president in 2020, but I just don't see the Democrats nominating a straight white male. I think they're too handcuffed by identity politics. This is just Joe being Joe, and he lowered himself into the gutter here. And if Biden wants to be a statesman and wants to rise above it and kind of be the older guy in the Democratic Party, getting in the gutter with Donald Trump's not good for your brand, and you're going to lose.
Kimberly, I believe we have tape of Mr. Biden getting ready to challenge Trump. Do we have that tape anywhere?
Please produce it.
There it is.
Yeah,
look at him.
Bigger weights than Obama.
Now the thing is, Kimberly, I was
Yes.
always under the impression that Joe was going to be the nice guy. Isn't he he was supposed to be the opposite of Trump. Trump's the rude and brash guy, and Joe was going to be your
Uncle Joe.
Uncle Joe, right?
It gives you warm, fuzzy back rubs.
Yes.
Massages your shoulders.
That's right.
Sweet nothings. Are we forgetting that?
We forgot.
Joe of the midnight swimming.
Yes.
Naked, yeah. So those are also part of Uncle Joe. So let's just refresh our recollection.
Yes.
And by the way, did they have those water weights, like with empty? One time a guy did that. I was like, wow, you're lifting a lot. And it was like plastic with water in it. That might have been the case. I would actually put my money on POTUS.
Yeah.
For sure. I think Vegas would too, right, Jesse?
Yeah, maybe give him a golf club. I think that might be more effective.
Oh, why are you pleasing Juan this way?
Juan, that's actually a good idea. A pay-per-view charity fight. You could have an undercard featuring John Kerry and Jim Carrey.
Well, that'd be good. I mean, but this is, to me, you know, how low can you go, right? I mean, so Michelle Obama said the thing about when they go low, we go high. I don't think Joe Biden was following that. But, I mean, this is
he gets
all
high.
in response to the kind of offensive rhetoric that comes from President Trump. And then don't forget, people thought, oh, you know what? He's going to be presidential. He's going to straighten his act up. He's never straightened his act up. And his response to Joe Biden was to put Joe Biden down, call him crazy Joe, oh, Joe this, Joe that. Let me tell you,
A
Joe
lot of
Biden,
people do that.
That's not fair to Joe. I don't even have to do this. I mean, just go look at the record. Joe Biden was head of Senate Judiciary, did a great job there, widely respected in terms of his foreign policy credentials.
No, he's not.
Yeah, I'm just going to tell you, that's
He's
a
not
reality.
widely respected
He
for his
is
foreign
widely.
policy
I hate to
credentials.
break it to you.
He was
I know.
against the Bin Laden raid.
Let me that's fine.
He voted
Right?
against
There's a
Desert
lot
Storm.
of Americans
I mean,
who
come
think
on.
that was a mistake. So let me just tell you
What, the
something.
Bin Laden
Bin Laden
raid?
did the
Iraq.
raid and
No,
did all
Bin
the
Laden thought it was
information.
Iraq.
There's one
Desert
person
Storm,
living on
not
Regret
Iraq.
Island there, and it's Bin Laden. Like,
No, but even in the Bin Laden situation, you got to understand that he properly was saying to President Obama, let's be careful about what we're doing. So but this is what you guys are doing is trying to belittle Biden, and I just don't think the American people buy it.
But Juan, you're kind of making his point, because Biden's the one that belittled Biden. I mean, it's all these people that have criticized President Trump for the way he conducts himself, and then they turn around and they meet him right down on that level, and they talk about hitting him. And by the way, I mean, this was a rally that was supposed to be about sexual assault on women. And you have Joe Biden out there, and he's saying things like, you know, I've been in locker rooms my whole life. I'm a pretty good athlete. The guy that talked that way was usually the fattest, ugliest SOB in the room. I mean, is this how you talk it was supposed to be about sexual assault on women, and he goes way off on this tangent. And by the way, you know, his attitude about about everything that's going on in the Me Too movement, I don't think is any more welcome by millennials. And he's also stuck in the dark ages in the idea that so many women look at all this as perpetuating this idea of women as victims. And he's talking about men, you got to stand up and stop other men from assaulting women, and women, you've got to, you know, go out and get your friends and take them back home. I mean, he's in the dark ages with this speech.